It's my understanding, and I will ask you if you agree with this, that whenever that the permit was imposed, it would be unconstitutional. And what we're trying to do here is to bring it back into agreement with the Constitution that we have the right to keep and bear arms. And we as lawmakers, as you've done with this amendment, you're wanting to protect the law-abiding against the lawbreakers by saying that if you've committed these offenses, you're going to lose some privileges. But your constitutional right, according to the Second Amendment, is that you have that freedom as a law-abiding citizen. You don't have to prove to anyone, to law enforcement or anyone, that you're a law-abiding citizen. Would you agree that that is the essence of your bill, and all of this talk about a permit is really not relevant to our Second Amendment right?
Please.
Yes, sir, absolutely. I mean, and in fact, in the permit system, it requires you, if asked by an officer, to present your permit and basically be inspected anytime you want. So not only are you giving up your Second Amendment rights, you're giving up your Fourth Amendment rights under the permit process. That's simply wrong. I mean, under the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, you have a right to be free from government encumbrance in your life. And both the Second and Fourth Amendments say you shouldn't have to do that. This bill resolves that, and by the way, it prevents you from being thrown in jail for merely exercising your Second Amendment right when you've done nothing else wrong. Our current law, unless you get permission from the state and pay a fee and go to a class, by the way, a one-time class that hypothetically is supposed to be good for the rest of your life, and that's laughable for anybody that deals with firearms. I mean, regular training is what's needed. But, I mean, under our current permit process, it is, I think, certainly a violation of your Second Amendment, Fourth Amendment rights, and others, because unless you've got that permit and paid that fee, you can't fulfill the destiny that our founders intended in this country to be able to exercise your freedoms.
You can put certain temperaments on the Constitution, such as I can't yell fire right now, and that's not violating my freedom of speech. So it's been tried over and over. Constitutional carry is not an absolute right when you're talking about the safety and welfare of our police and other citizens. So I just wanted to make sure that everybody understood that. Thank you.
Yes, sir, Representative Sexton.
That's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. Constitutional carry is just that, constitutional carry. Sometimes the courts get it wrong, but our forefathers got it right. And no matter how much you say it or how you say it, this right shall not be infringed upon. It was given to us by our forefathers. And with all due respect, you're an attorney, I'm not, and I don't mean that to disparage you, but I honestly do believe it's a ridiculous argument. Thank you.
Hello, friend. This is Aaron Snodderly with your Capitol update for the week of March 7th, 2021. What you just watched were State Representatives William Lambert and Jerry Sexton discuss the governor's constitutional carry bill at the Capitol in Nashville, Tennessee. These bills are HB 786 and HB 18, and they did a fantastic job defending our Second Amendment rights. As a matter of fact, Representative Sexton, who, by the way, is a preacher, he actually went so far as to say that it was the most ridiculous thing he had ever heard when someone suggested that maybe we should limit our Second Amendment rights to protect ourselves. And so we wholeheartedly agree with him, and we pray that this bill will continue to pass and make its way through the House and then through the Senate. It passed in subcommittee last week. It's being heard in the full committee this week, and we believe we have the votes for it to pass in the House, but we are concerned that it might stall in the Senate. So please pray much with us about this. Pray that it'll pass the House and the Senate so the governor can sign it into law. Now, for the last few weeks, I've been talking to you quite a bit about HB 10, and this is a bill that was designed to protect the rights of religious people to refuse a vaccine mandated by the government. And I'm sad to report that this bill failed in committee, and It did not pass. So, in other words, there is no chance of it becoming law this year. We'll have to wait till next year. But we are encouraged that HB 13 is still around. HB 13 is still making its way through committee, and this bill is similar to HB 10, but just slightly different in that it removes the consideration of people of religious faith and replaces it rather with people of conscience. And then it also is strictly limited to just COVID-19 vaccines. And so this is a step in the right direction, but we still look forward to the coming years when we'll once again be able to vote on and, Lord willing, pass HB 10. But pray that HB 13 in the meantime will pass and become law. Now, last week I mentioned to you a man named Barton Thorne, who's a principal of a high school in West Tennessee. He was suspended from his job because he voiced his concern concerning the limitation of freedom of speech in America. And they got upset with him and said, "You don't have the right to say that." And they were, in so doing, thus proving that what he said was true all along. Now, since last week, he has been reinstated to his job while the civil rights lawsuit is ongoing. So please continue to pray for Mr. Barton Thorne and his family and the situation he is dealing with there. Pray that the courts will understand the Constitution appropriately and rule in his favor. I'd like to mention to you as well H.R. 23, which was heard yesterday in committee at the Capitol in Nashville, Tennessee. H.R. 23 is a resolution that would remove Ellen Hobbs Lyle as a judge in Davidson County. She's a chancellor judge, and last year, in the month of June, I believe it was, she ruled that absentee ballots could be extended to people who are concerned about voting during a time of a pandemic. And this was well beyond her means and well beyond her aspect of rule and authority. And so she did not do right with this ruling. And as a result, the state Supreme Court actually denounced what she did. And there's now a movement in the House and the Senate to have her removed from her position because she overstepped her bounds. It was heard yesterday in committee. I was there to testify on a different bill, but I still heard the arguments concerning this resolution. And it was sad to me that there are 65 Republicans in the House, 65 of 73 Republicans in the House who have signed on to this resolution and stated that they believe she should be removed as a judge. And yet the majority of Republicans on the committee that day, including the chairman, Andrew Farmer, decided that she should be allowed to stay. And so they only heard supportive arguments for her. They only heard people who supported her and people who opposed the resolution, and no one else spoke. And then they quickly did a voice vote and refused a roll call vote so that she could stay in power and continue to operate as a judge. This was very disturbing, very concerning. And I ask you to pray for these gentlemen and pray that they will reconsider this. There is a move going on right now at the Capitol to ask Speaker of the House Cameron Sexton to recall this bill and allow it to be reconsidered. If you're interested in this, then please contact his office and ask him to reconsider H.R. 23. Tell him you support it because you believe in constitutional judges, not judges who try to legislate from the bench, as they say. Now, those are just some of the things that have been happening in Nashville there at the Capitol. But as you might assume, there's a lot of things still happening at the Capitol in Washington, D.C. as well. Last week, we mentioned to you H.R. 1, which has been called the For the People Act. And basically, it's a takeover by the federal government of our elections nationwide. This is a very dangerous bill. I did not go into great detail on it last week, so I want to say just a few more things about it this week. H.R. 1, the For the People Act, which is being heard by the Senate in the coming weeks, it already passed the House last week. This bill would create a new national automatic voter registration that would require people to opt out instead of opting in. In other words, everyone will be automatically registered to vote if this bill passes. The bill would also make it legal for 16-year-olds to vote instead of 18. The previous age was 18. The current age is 18, actually, but they're now wanting to lower it to the age of 16. The bill would also prohibit states from banning mail-in voting. So certain states across the country who were concerned this last election about potential fraud with mail-in voting, under this law, they would no longer be able to ban mail-in voting. The bill would require states to accept mail-in ballots up to 10 days after the election. It would allow day of voter registration, and it would prohibit voter roll purging, including people who are dead or who have already left the state. In other words, nobody could remove someone's name from the voting roll, even if they had died 50 years ago or had moved from the state 10 years ago. The bill also declares that felons are eligible to vote, and it bans state and voter ID laws. Imagine that. You have to have a license to do just about anything in our country these days. But now they're saying you shouldn't have to be able to prove that you're an American citizen to exercise one of the most important rights of a citizen, and that's voting. The bill also would provide $6 to every dollar given to a candidate running for office. This is a very dangerous bill. We ask you to pray much about it. Contact your senators and let them know you oppose it. You know, we live in perilous times, but Lamentations still rings true. It is of the Lord's mercies that we are not consumed. His compassions fail not. They are new every morning. Thank you so much for watching. I pray that God will use each and every one of us to bless America. Thank you for investing in your future through our ministry.